match is now officially a Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
Broken, thankless, push you down, open.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on? It's been a minute since we've done a show together.
I know, especially from two separate rooms. It's been weird. It's
It
a weird
is.
time
It
in our
is.
lives.
It's actually, you know what's been crazier though, is it's been longer since we have done an interview together like this. Well, not really. We did the one with Matthew Palmer, which you can watch
Which was
on our YouTube
fantastic.
channel.
It is
Absolutely
related to this
fantastic.
interview.
It's yes, mildly is related to this interview. So with that said, we're not going to spend any time. If you do not know who our guest is today, I guarantee you have seen one of his Facebook posts. There are these posts that have dates from all around the world in them. And this is the guy that compiles them. But not only does he compile them, he does just about everything else in the wrestling community. And I know we say this a lot, but please welcome to the stage one of the hardest working men in professional wrestling, your president of wrestling, Phil Stamper.
How's
Hey,
it going,
everybody.
Phil?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Absolutely
The only Phil in
fantastic.
wrestling that I like.
See. That's why I have shirts that now say the best Phil in wrestling.
I wanted a shirt that said I've had my fill on Phil. But then I saw you and I was like, I can't do that.
So
Yeah,
now
we're gonna
he's like,
mistake him. We're gonna
marketing.
mistake it for him. But,
Right. It's all about product placement.
Phil, wonderful to have you on. We're both big fans of yours, especially when we started getting in independent wrestling, because you are the mecca for all things independent wrestling. You have, like Ethan alluded to at the beginning, you have this list 3 pages long every week that tells about, hey, this indie match is going on in your city at this town, like all that. And you make it easy to find the best wrestling in every city. And I want to thank you personally for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It
It's
looks
a
a little
fun
something
project.
like this.
Oh, yes.
And this is actually the updated one.
Like-
So if you pause this right, oh no, sorry, this is last week's. I was going to say, if you travel back in time, you can use that list to watch last week's shows.
And we'll pop up his this week's if he has it.
Not yet. I put out, I haven't done so typically on Mondays, I put out a post that's on my personal Facebook of, here's the sample for this week. Like, what am I missing? And then I put out an updated one every Wednesday or
Okay.
Thursday,
Right.
depending on my
You
schedule.
heard it here. Wednesdays.
Which just for heads up, this is being recorded on Monday, the 11th. This is probably going to go up on the 13th. So if you hear us talking about it's Monday, we're speaking in the past tense now.
Yes.
All right.
So-
We're in a different type of world here.
That's good. Time zones. We spring forward and things happened.
Yeah,
why
it's one of
can't we
those.
spring forward like 3 p.m. on a work day?
Gosh,
Why can't we do that?
that would be such a beautiful thing.
But no, it's got to be while I'm playing Helldivers with the boys, and then I accidentally play till 4 a.m.
You know what it is? It's those night shift guys trying to capitalize on everything. That's what it is. They're like, no, I need a shorter shift. And I say, nay, sir. I say, nay. It is your choice to dwell in the darkness and not hang out with the rest of us. I refuse to give you that time. I need it for sleep. You're getting fueled by nicotine and caffeine and whatever
A team.
teen her name is down on the corner. Regardless of that, Phil, thank
Her
you
name's
so much
Missy.
for being.
Stop calling me out.
I'm not calling you out on this at all. I shan't dare talk ill of Missy. She's a fantastic woman. Phil, speaking of people being busy and not the night shift guys, you are easily one of the most jet setting of wrestling. I don't even want to say personas because this is just who you are. You're more than a persona. You are everywhere, sir.
I'm trying to be. I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, you want to be in wrestling and you want to be everywhere and you want to go everywhere and work every event you possibly can. Like, to me, that's always been the goal, is just do more wrestling.
Do that
It's a
wrestling.
simple goal.
Right. Do
It really is. Which I guess we'll talk about the show this weekend. So let's get that, because we always want to give everybody the opportunity to what is Phil into currently, or what is whomever we're bringing on. We've got your poster here. So this Saturday you're going to be in Iowa, I believe, for Wrestling Revolver's Ready or Not.
Yep. It's going to be an exciting time. We'll be back at the Horizon Event Center in Clive, which is just outside Des Moines. So love Des Moines as a city. It was when we started going there, I was like, I didn't know what to expect from being in the middle of Iowa. And I really dig Des Moines as a city.
Is it more than just cornfields?
It is. I mean, Iowa itself is mostly cornfield, but then you have like these pop-ups, like you have Iowa City, you have Des Moines, some really standout places. So Des Moines has like 5 universities right there.
Yeah, isn't that where Iowa State is there or something like that? Is that Iowa City?
Iowa State's just to the north, and then University of Iowa is just to the east. So
gotcha. Everything's all right there, Dubuque and all that stuff. So this looks like a stacked card. I mean, I'm seeing Mance Warner. I'm seeing Zach Cardona. Is Damian Chambers up here? Yep. Warhorse.
The man who famously beat Matthew Palmer. We have Mr. House right there, Mr. Hauser.
Yeah, that is what a roster to be popping up in Iowa, which we know that there's wrestling in Iowa, but Black and Bold is out there, or Black and Brave, sorry. Yeah. We know that's out there, but man, that is a roster. That's something that would make me get out there. So give us a little insight on this show, if you would.
I mean, so of course I'm trying to also open up the card, and my other browser is like, nope. Gonna just sit there.
That's how I was just a minute ago.
But in general, like when you look at Revolver, there's a lot of talent that's currently on television. So you see a lot of stars from TNA, you see a couple stars from AEW. You see names that you recognize. You see some great independent talent that are trying to make waves. I've always been very honored by the fact that I'm there with all these people. I remember when we came back from the pandemic, our first event back from the pandemic was in this building in the Horizon Event Center. And I remember like, oh gosh, I have to start the main event with a promo. Nobody's going to know who I am. And I'm following up Jon Moxley and Jimmy Jacobs, who just had a street fight. What am I going to do? And I walked on stage and and it's literally a stage as part of our entryway. And I grabbed the microphone and got the loudest response of the night and a chorus of boos. And I'm like, yes. It's like,
it doesn't care what the pop is. It just cares that there's a pop.
Right.
Just give me the response.
There's sound. And coming from the pandemic era, when the roughest moments I had during the pandemic watching wrestling was when there was just no sound. Mm-hmm. And like, you're sitting there like watching on television, like somebody say something. I can't take it. And so hearing that kind of noise again for the first time was like, this is amazing. And those crowds, Revolver crowds, are intense. The vibe of the show is intense. Like we drive home a pace to keep people entertained. And like, so you don't get a lot of downtime in between matches. It's sort of a constant, like, we're going to hit you. We're going to hit you. We're going to hit you. Just because it feels like the kind of vibe of the show. And that crowd just feeds off of it, and they feed the people in the ring. So it's an exciting event. And it's a very reciprocal kind of event. Like we have to feed the crowd and the crowd feeds us. So it's great. I love Revolver. It is now, I consider, even though it's in Iowa, half a country away, I consider it my home promotion. So
does it feel? Oh, sorry, Clint.
Because I always thought Wrestling Revolver was based out of Texas, not Iowa.
So it's actually, so this is where it gets interesting. Sammy lives in Ohio. It started in Iowa. We just went to Texas for the first time this year, or excuse me, not this year, 2023. And so since then, we've had 3 sold out events in Texas. Our last events that we've had in Ohio have sold out. And we're in a big enough venue in Iowa where we can go over the capacity we have. So right now we're at like 1,000 people in that building, and it's just mind-boggling. Oh, and there's a new promo from Paul Walter Hauser that I did not know until I was trying to find.
Oh, okay.
Because I looked at the screen and I'm like, is that Ralph Macchio? And like, so it's from William Zabka from Cobra Kai. Oh, that wasn't Ralph Macchio. That was William Zabka. Sorry. from Cobra Kai. It just has a promo on the Revolver Twitter account. Sorry, I did not mean to derail and go that way.
No, that's fine. That's our we live on derailment. Look, this if we had train tracks, they're that way. They're not. We're not where the engine of this place is.
Awesome.
You got me going on Twitter to look this thing up so we can all watch it together.
So the question here is, we're big fans of like old PWG, old Ring of Honor, and Revolver feels like it's set itself into that place that those two used to reside in, where, like you said, it drives you from match to match. There's always some kind of and I know that wrestling inherently is entertainment, but it always feels like there's something to grab your attention. There's not a down moment in the matches, in the things that go on in between the matches. It feels like just more of an event and not just a sporting event. It feels like a full-on like entertainment event,
Right.
but it still has the sporting element to it as well.
And so first, thank you for saying that, because that's the hope that people walk away going, this was an amazing event. I don't want to compare ourselves to like a Ring of Honor, to a PWG, because each was their own established thing, and in many respects, people are now like coming to know us, and they're like, oh, what is this thing that we didn't know has existed for 6 years? And it's like we're building and building and building. So it's like I almost want us to make sure that we have our own vibe that's unique, that stands out.
Yes.
And I have seen being on the East Coast and seeing the companies that were like, we're going to run in PA and we're going to be the next ECW, and drove themselves straight into the ground, every single one of them. And so it's like with Revolver, I never want us to be like, we want to be the next. And like, no, we're Revolver. We're creating our own thing. We're definitely our own identity. I've never seen an event go this way, like be as paced as it is. Many people who watch wrestling events are like, it's a roller coaster ride. Like you have ups, you have downs, you have pitfalls, you have spins, and too many events sort of have these like down moments, and it's just like a lull, and don't know how to keep up that pacing or keep up the energy. And I think Revolver hits it out of the ballpark each and every time.
I feel you guys do too, because I discovered you guys maybe about 2 years ago. And that was only because I stumbled on adding Matthew Palmer on Facebook by like
I'm so sorry.
I'm a fan of this guy. Like, I love him. Let me see if he'll respond. And he did. And that brings me to a question I have with you, because you and Matthew Palmer are both shareaholics, I'll call, is that you are sharing everything. You guys are consistently the ones cutting promos for each show that I see and making sure that the name is out there, which is the whole reason I discovered Wrestling Revolver. Now, how important is it for anyone in the business to make sure that the show is shared, promos are cut for shows, stuff like that, just to so you can get the name out there?
Critical. I mean, think of it right now. So many things are vying for your attention on social media, streaming, television. Everything is like shouting at you to say, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I think wrestling struggles sometimes, especially independent wrestling, with trying to go, we're making noise and look at us and look at what we can give to you that you will like and appreciate. I mean, one of the reasons I started to do the indie list as I did the calendar was people were bad about putting themselves out there. And it's like, well, you have to let people know that you're running. This is not Field of Dreams. Like you don't just put it up and put up a wrestling ring and they will come. Like, you have to let people know you are here. And so doing promos is part of that, sharing that content, and it's very reciprocal. And 10 years ago, when social media was still baby, in its semi infancy, there was a lot of like, well, I'm not going to share that. I'm not going to put this thing. It's the promoter's job to promote. And it's like, but you have your own audience on your social media. Mm-hmm. If you want them to know where you are at, because they're coming for you, which then helps you when you're at that promotion, because then you're the one getting the responses. The promoter goes, oh, wait a minute, this person seems to really have this fan following. Oh, wow, they seem really interested in what this person is doing. It becomes a very reciprocal relationship. It becomes very much, you are feeding yourself now, because now this promoter has seen your worth and your value in how you put things out there and in the responses you're getting from the crowd. I will talk anybody's ear off any day. And so I love cutting promos. I always sort of leave a special challenge for myself in a promo. Some people will never know, like, either a story I'm going to tell, or like, I want to make it a movie. I want to make it a 1.5 minute movie. when I make my next promo, that I don't want to just be the, hi, on this date is this event. I want you to come see me and thank you. You know, I want to make it more entertaining and more engaging to give people a reason and an emotional feel for like why they should come to an event.
That's beautifully said. It's the word that's gonna. I'm gonna be honest. That's gonna get clipped, and then we're gonna reshare that next time I hear somebody say, "Well, I don't know why I gotta promote it." But like, I'm not good at a promo. If you're not good at a promo, the best way to get better at a promo is to cut a promo and then ask somebody to watch it.
Yeah.
Ask somebody to tell you.
Since I guess like the last 6 months, I've been asked a couple times to teach up at Catchpoint, which is Drew Gulak and Yuta Wheeler School up in Philadelphia. And this last class I did was promos, and it was we started on promos, we built it into entrances, we went into matches, and it was like, I want to see this character that you've developed and you're trying to get out to get people interested in what you're doing go all the way through everything you're doing, and let's talk about did it work or did it not work, and what you could do to punch it up. Because you're right, some people do struggle, and you know some people have never had to talk in front of people before, or they've never had to put out like, this is why you should come to a thing. And I think wrestling struggles with that in many respects. And I'm not saying everybody has to be a great talker or a great, like, I think too many people go, oh God, it's a promo. I either have to shout at the camera or I need to be the rodeo clown. And it's like, no, like there's a way you can put yourself into it without taking away from yourself, just to promote the event or promote yourself. Like there's guys like Vinny Pacifico on the East Coast is doing this great job of just promos. And sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with the event. He's putting over the promo for his own brand. Like, and it's working so well. And he's getting like tens of thousands of views every single video he does. And so it's garnering attention. And he just came back from Japan. Like, and if you look at his Twitter following, you're going to be like, well, he only has, I can't remember now, like maybe 5,000 or 6,000 followers. So it's not like he has this overabundance of following, but people get so engaged, and then the community sort of shares out his stuff because, wow, this is different. This is interesting. I've not seen somebody really just promote themselves outside of the next event they're going to do. And some companies sort of suffer from that too. When they're sharing and making content to put out there, they struggle from, oh, here's the flyer, here's the flyer, here's the flyer, here's the match, here's the match. They don't really make other content. They don't like share clips. They don't like talk about like when people are doing interviews and put out content in that respect. They only rely on here's next show, here's next show, here's next show. And okay, they might get like 1,000 followers on something from a community that doesn't engage with any of their content. And so like make it interesting, make it enticing, make it a reason why people want to come and want to engage.
It's amazing how much having like 30 or 40 people that regularly engage with your content can push your reach. Clint's seen it happen. He does all of our YouTube stuff, and he sees it.
Well, because like I always tell people when they're like scared of cutting promos, Orange Cassidy is simultaneously the best promo in wrestling and the worst promo in wrestling. Because he just goes out there and he's just like, I'm going to defend my belt. But for some reason, you're just like, I want to see this motherfucker defend his belt. Let's go.
Right.
Like, it's simple. It's like, for my thing, like the most important thing to be in wrestling is charismatic. Because like your energy and your character is going to bring in, like, I've seen a lot of people be shit wrestlers. Let's be real here between the three of us. There's a lot of people out there who aren't that good, but they consistently cut promos. They consistently upload stuff for themselves, and they're a social media mogul to make themselves look like king shit a fuck mountain. But then you go and see them live and you're just like, that was garbage, but you still paid $20 to go see a person you saw cut a promo on YouTube.
My brain was like, I think I know who you're talking about, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to be good. I'm going to say names.
Oh, I'm talking about people here, man. I'm talking about
no,
I know
somebody out in that area that's that way. I'm gonna put this in the
that's
chat.
Stuff for Forklift after.
I'm gonna put this in the private chat, and you can look at it, Phil.
Okay.
And I want to see what your face says.
Oh my! Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't take him anymore. I have him blocked now on I have him blocked on Facebook and I just don't mention him or have him anything on my
yeah.
Twitter.
Wow.
I just can't. And even the people who do talk about him, like, stop. Like, do you know what you're harnessing when that name is mentioned? Like,
I know one of our favorite people, she gets really upset about him. And we're like, look, don't talk about him because you just stir stuff. Anyway, speaking of being charismatic, it's got the word caring in it, and caring is sharing. And we were talking about sharing things with Matthew Palmer. You apparently like to share a little bit of the booze with him.
Hey, Matthew Palmer. Hey, Matthew Palmer. I'm sorry, Phil. Give me 1 second. Ethan,
Shut the fuck up.
I hate you for that transition. I hate you so much.
That's a segue, sir.
that was not alcohol. That was when Matthew Palmer was the Monster Hunter and he was drinking potions.
Yes.
And so
and he would die.
I was not giving him alcohol; I was poisoning him.
Apologies.
So in Revolver's history, Matthew Palmer and I have not always quite seen eye to eye. We have not aligned. The stars have not aligned at the same time for us.
Are
to
you
be
taller than
mind.
5'8", and that is why?
No.
Damn, we're all the same height here.
Yes, I am.
When I stand on my wallet.
Yes, exactly. On top of a step stool.
Just a bunch of really angry 5'8" guys around here making podcasts, taking potions.
And he deserved it. I mean, I may have also choked him out with a barbed wire strand before. That's a whole thing.
Tomato.
Because the history between you two goes deep because you both have been involved in Wrestling Revolver for so long. You're bound to cross paths and butt heads every once in a while.
I'm also the executive vice president of Revolver. And so I have to be mindful of everything that happens at Revolver and everything that he does that I have to fix later.
Feel called out, Ethan?
Having to set a Revolver World Championship match this weekend for Alex Shelley versus JT Dunn when I know Palmer's not there because he's running Metroplex in Texas.
Oh my God, that's going to be such a good match, though. And I'll give him credit on Metroplex. I watched this past week on Twitch for the first time. I thought it was very, very good. It makes me want to go to Texas for a show. I'm not going to lie.
I grew up in an age where I could turn on ESPN Classic and watch World Class Championship Wrestling and watch USWA and watch Global so the Sportatorium, and they have a vibe that feels like that to me when you watch Metroplex. And it's funny because I made a comparison to what was the other company called PCW was another company that ran down there for a minute and had like the same kind of setup, like a studio standard setup, almost like the same kind of thing they do at a little bit larger. And it was funny because I was like, oh, wow, it must be like that building and that size. And I went there and I was like, I would never have thought that it was as compressed as it is inside because of the way they film and the way they shoot and how active that crowd is. And so I love that building. I love how Metroplex presents their stuff. I like so much of their talent they have down there.
They have a great selection of talent too. They use Trey Miguel better than I think Impact uses Trey Miguel. Excuse me, TNA uses Trey Miguel.
Right. I don't know. Part of me is like, okay. I guess to be clear, I do not have a contract with anybody on television right now. Please hire me. But I mean, I watch Revolver and I'm like, Sammy's booking Impact better than Impact does.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for that in one respect because they're all working Impact, they're all friends. This is no knock on anybody's talent. It was like, but then I also see our crowds are larger than what TNA draws.
And sometimes that's the thing, though. So, with a Revolver, it feels, and this isn't, once again, not a knock on an Impact type thing, but when you're creating a weekly product, and I think this is what happens with and I think you're very much seeing this with AEW right now. Not so much WWE because it's the juggernaut that it is, but with AEW, you're seeing the smaller crowd size. With TNA, you're seeing the smaller crowd size, but you're seeing larger crowd sizes at indie events. And it's because it's not the same thing that you get every week. It feels special. And even though, yes, you might be using 50-60% of the same people as an Impact event. It's being booked in a little bit different manner. There's a little bit more openness. Like you said, the pacing is different. And I think that lends credence as to why there's more people or why it feels bigger, why it feels better.
I agree. I mean, and the thing is, like, I love all the products. Like, when I watched TNA during the pandemic, I thought, like, especially in 2020 when everything first started, I was like, hands down, they have the best wrestling on television. Like,
I still think they're very, very good wrestling on television. That's
yeah.
No, because they're genuinely pumping out bangers every week. Like, we just had Josh Alexander versus Simon Gotch. Like, what was it, 2 weeks ago? And that was fantastic. And now we had Hammerstone versus Alexander again. Like, Alexander's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I'm sorry, I'm in love with him.
Oh, we have a friend here who's a referee, and there's a thing here, Battle in the Creek, that they do every year.
Oh yeah,
and that's where Alexander and Hammerstone faced each other last year, I believe in it. He was the ref for that, so he went over to Windsor on Friday night and sat in the crowd and got to watch that same match. And he was just kind of like, they're way smaller from back here. So.
I mean, I want everybody to succeed, but it's also like I kind of see where like things could be tweaked. Like I like TNA's approach now, which is how can we make some of our events more of a spectacle? How do we make it stand out? How do we make it feel special when we go to some of these places that we're not typically at when we're running? And maybe that will give it some of the different feel. And we make it look like, oh my gosh, this huge thing is now happening. And everybody's realized maybe we don't need to compete in this way with each other, that we're all going to run our pay-per-views or whatever the hell WWE's calling theirs now on Sunday nights. Like, we can spread them out. We can be a Friday, we can be a Saturday, we can be a Sunday, get different audiences, reach out and appeal. So we're not also cross-contaminating like when audiences are available. Like I really enjoy like what everybody is doing now.
I have a question. Oh, sorry. No,
go ahead.
No,
I actually have a question. From a booker, what do you feel is the perfect amount of matches to have on one card?
Honestly, I think it varies. I really do. Because everyone says I shouldn't say everyone does say this because I've heard different. I think 9, and because I think you can do pacing along the way that gets a solid event out that you can tell everything you need to tell. Now that number is going to change if I had a War Games match, I don't think you need 9 matches on an event. If you had a Royal Rumble, you don't need 9 matches on an event. I think there's ways to modify that. And there's sometimes a match isn't going to be a match. Something happens, fight breaks out, something can change it and change the dynamic of an event. So not necessarily you're going to get 9 straight matches. I think there's 9 segments you might end up getting that has some kind of action or direction in it.
Okay. Because that's like a big contention thing here in Michigan is what's the perfect match card length? Because we've been at shows where it ran till midnight and that shit started at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that too. And that's, people, a lot of events suffer from that. We ended this match. Okay, now we're coming down. Okay, now the ring announcer's finally coming back. Okay, now they're in the ring. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, let's go. And now your next match. In that time, you have killed like 2.5, 3 minutes. And then each entrance is probably at least a minute long. So how are you doing better as a production for an event in trimming out that time alone to kill out some of that extras? Because that's what some of the killers are, is the downtime. I'm not saying matches themselves shouldn't have some downtime, because that's part of that enjoyment of the audience of getting people behind, is that roller coaster of like, I'm excited. Okay, now it's coming back down. Okay. All right, now it's coming back up. I'm getting excited. Okay. I'm waiting for the next moment. Like there's matches are supposed to breathe like that. So it does depend a little bit on what the match placements are, what you do during those downtimes. Not every event needs an intermission, and especially doesn't need the hour-long intermission. Like coming from somebody who used to work at CZW when it was good, like I struggled with the fact when I was there, like, oh, well, everybody wants to sell their stuff, and so we're going to go an hour long for intermission. I'm like, there's not enough stuff to sell. for an hour-long intermission. It was one
Oh,
thing when
no
it was
one was
like,
convincing DJ of that otherwise.
right. And you know, I even sometimes when we were setting up Cage of Death, and the 1 year I think I finally got him convinced, like, why doesn't the only intermission be when we're setting up the cage? And it was like, doesn't that feel so much better? I don't know. DJ. DJ has killed, like, part of my brain has a DJ focus, and it's like it's just dying slowly.
You know, the amazing thing is, it's done that to fans too.
Yeah,
It's done that to people on the other side just from this thing. I mean, it's the whole deathmatch community in itself has done that. But
yeah.
Well, it's because something I've seen at shows is like when you, like, as you said, we've been to deathmatch shows where there's like an intermission in between every match for cleanup. And sometimes that intermission goes 15 minutes, 20 minutes and stuff like that. And I feel like people walk out of shows for that reason. Like they'll catch the first half. And like you said, like I used to go to Ring of Honor shows and they would do that hour-long intermission in between. And I'm just like, after like 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm ready to leave. Like, I don't want to sit here and wait.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is the ideal intermission time?
I mean, like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Because that way you get people up, they get to go to the restroom, they can buy something really quick, and they can come back to their seat. Maybe 20 if pushing it. And again, if there's something that needs to be set up, work that into that timing of it. I mean, old school, if you watch some old school WWE pay-per-views, there's intermissions in the middle of their pay-per-views, which blow my mind. But then for a while, WWE at one point finally, like, this is me, total supposition, fanboy looking at production, going, this is still the time they would have had the intermission. Oh, this is their like really long interview segments where they're doing like 3 back-to-back interview segments and all these things. The way they run stuff now is very different than that. But I get why you want that time. You need to reset. You need to give everybody a breather. You need to let them get up, get some blood flowing, get them excited for what's going to happen next. But I think, you know, if you're running shorter events, then you don't need an intermission. Keep it moving and keep it going and keep that excitement and energy going. And that's one of the things that has impressed me about Revolver is because it doesn't stop. I mean, let me rephrase. We do have an intermission. So we do take that moment and pause, but it allows us everybody let's take a breather. Let's reset. Production wise, what we do on the live stream is now we show a match from a previous event. So the crowd at home is able to be entertained and watching something that they might not have seen before from a previous event. And then to the crowd, they can buy some stuff if they want, and then get up, stretch the legs, buy merch, mingle for a little bit, and go right back into action.
Okay. No, because I completely agree. I think 15 minutes is perfect. It's enough to get a hot dog, a handshake, and get your butt back to the seat.
Right. I agree.
So I got to ask, because of doing so many things, especially on the Revolver side of it, there has to be opportunities that have slipped through your grasp at some point. What's an opportunity that I'm not going to say you regret, but you have that what if moment for it?
I mean, outside of wanting to be hired by a national television company, hire me.
If you get hired on national TV, you better drag us with you.
It's not only hashtag hire him, hashtag hire me.
It's funny because there's somebody in my life that I know who used to be involved in wrestling, and it was like, I want to say it was Rich Swann, Pac, and maybe Sammy, all got their calls to get hired by WWE in his apartment. Like they just happened to be there when it happened. And so I had visited him and he was like, you know, like every time this person come, that person get, like they got a call about a job. So in my brain, I'm like, right.
Ringer's on. How you doing?
Right.
I think I'm getting a call.
Right. Wow, that is a good question. I mean, there are sometimes part of me is like, no, there are times, of course, when I miss, like, man, I took this booking over this one because I think this one would have been fun, or I would have seen friends, or whatever the case may be. But this was the place that I have the regular booking at, and so this is the consistency. So I needed to be there because there was a purpose and reason for me to be here as well. I just
Mhm.
feel like I missed out because I missed hanging out with my friends or whatever it may be. That happens. That does happen.
Yeah, that's fair.
I kind of the reverse of that though is I was really mad with DJ about something, and when I worked CZW, I don't care that I'm calling it out now. Was promised something was going to happen. I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I got offered a television, a commercial spot, to do some acting work, and it was going to be really high pay. And I was like, I am missing this if I come, because you never use me when you say you're going to use me. I always show up. Nothing ever happens. I'm not going to do it. And he's like, no, I promise. I get there, didn't use me. So I missed out on the commercial spot, which would have been like, for like half a day's work would have been $1,000. And so I was not happy that day.
I wouldn't have been. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Short
we
of
have
that, though. Sorry. Go ahead.
DJ had.
We have that issue out in Michigan. I'm not going to name any wrestlers, but I've talked to a few who have said that they are told that they're being booked on this show, and then they show up and they're like, "Am I wrestling on this show?" And they'll be like, "No, we're not going to have you wrestle. We're just going to have you come out and cut a promo." And it was just like, then why am I showing up?
Right.
Like, I can
Yeah.
cut a promo on YouTube. I don't need to show up to a show to cut a promo at all.
And at that same, I mean, I've been in those situations, and I've had to say to a promoter, like, listen, I can do the math of every third show, I do absolutely nothing when I'm here. Every third show, I only do a promo in the back that we show later. On that final 1/3 of the show, that's when I'm actually used on something. And most of those are, because I was an authority figure, most of those are wrestler comes in, runs in on somebody else. Now they're going to blow up into a match. I go out and go, hey, you guys want to have a match. Let's do a match right now. I'm like,
You don't just do that, because I've seen you with a bunch of skewers hanging out of your fucking forehead.
I mean, that's Revolver. That's a little different. Revolver Phil is an interesting dude.
First of all, I want to comment here how you look like the Wish.com version of Dave Draymond from Disturbed.
I have never heard that before in my life.
Yeah, you look like you're going like hard into like
Yeah.
whatever song was on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
I'm gonna be
soundtrack.
honest. I like this angle of it far better.
That's fair.
My
It's
girlfriend
just
can't
you have
use-
a much better, like, just
The
beautiful.
fan.
I call it the bloomin' onion.
I've never heard you call it that before.
It's because I've never talked about it until right now.
Oh my god. Yeah, my girl, I tried to show her the skewer spot and she can't do those. I remember us watching whatever that one was, All Out, whatever one was in London.
Yeah.
And Moxley got the skewer spot done in the middle, like at the beginning of the match, and her face was like this in her phone for the remainder of that. She's like, I'm not looking up. That's disgusting. How do you feel about doing stuff like that?
Did you not just see it?
Right. I mean, I am a ridiculous technical wrestling nerd. Like,
Mhm.
my favorite wrestler in the world right now is Zack Sabre Jr. Probably because I also have never had to work with him. So like, I have both an appreciation for his technical ability, the appreciation for his talk, and for his ability to be able to back up his talk. And like, yeah. And so to do something like that is very outside the norm for me, but it also allowed me to do it. Like, it made me go like, I haven't done this before. Let's go. Was I over? I'm like thinking of the moment of it and like, yeah, I've had better moments in my wrestling life. I'll be honest, it's exactly everything you think you would feel when that happens. Like there's no getting away from that. The only thing that happened that I didn't know how to process was so immediately following that moment, I get hit in the face by JT Dunn. And so I go down and the weight of the skewers just go flip forward. And it wasn't painful because it was already in and they weren't going anywhere. It was just the sensation of it. And I'm like, oh, I feel
Like,
I wasn't
I got the
you scratching your skull or something?
I don't even know how to describe it. I think it just pulls. And so yeah, and then I'm half concussed. I have skewers sticking out of my head, and I wasn't processing what was going to happen next. And so I'm in there for like the next 4 minutes on a promo with skewers sticking out of my head. Some of them were coming out. I get to the back. I don't know if I should. I'll tell this. Why not? I get to the back. Now, for those of you who might be grossed out, just skip the next 30 seconds. So I'm like, well, I have to get these out of my head now. First one comes out, no problem. Second one I grab. It's not coming out. 2 hands yank it out of my head. I wasn't thinking of the physics of how skewers go in your head. And so, they go in like this and then they fell. And so I'm trying to pull like this. I should have lifted up and tried to pull out that way. So 2 of them I had to like double hand, like rip out of my head. Which I thought JT Dunn was going to puke in front of me.
This is for hitting me in the face.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell this little story because gross story is continuing. I was at a New Year's Eve party one time, and this one kid decided to chug a bottle of Jägermeister, like the 5th. And this kid was also dumb and thought he had the strongest skull on the planet. So he started taking that Jaeger bottle and cracking himself in the head with it to try to break it. And all he did was just bust himself open. So this girl, bless her heart, she takes off her hoodie and starts to go to clean off his face of all the blood. And the second she wipes down, he projectile vomited on her.
Oh, no.
And I've never felt so bad for a human being in my life. I eventually took off my hoodie to give to her to clean up her face. So it was just a real trickle-down effect. So yeah, head damage, not a good thing.
I mean, I
make you think.
I've definitely seen all sorts of, for context, I did amateur wrestling, I did judo, I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu, done pro wrestling. I've also worked in college housing. So like the bevy of different kinds of injuries, and my mom was an obstetrics nurse. So like when it comes to like grossing people out, like here we are at dinner. Hey mom, how was your day? Oh, so when the placenta didn't come out, like, so like as a kid, I have no dinner etiquette. Cause like,
thanks, mom.
Right. Love you, mom. But yeah, so like all manner of gross stuff like doesn't really gross me out. But even all the way back to what you said, like hardcore wrestling stuff, like bring it. Like my favorite match I've ever did. Again, ridiculous submission hold Sunday technical wrestling mindset. My favorite match I ever did was a hardcore weapons match I did with a guy named Court Montgomery in North Carolina because it was just fun. It was so much out of my element, and we made it work. Granted, I almost got choked up by a noose legitimately at the end of the match, but it was great. It was a great time.
You just said something important there for me, and something I like preach every day when wrestling is fun. And like you look back, you're a technical I'm the same as you. I love technical wrestling. It's my favorite shit on the earth. But my favorite match of all time is Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle in the street fight at King of the Ring.
Right.
It's the greatest match of all time for me. And a lot of these wrestlers, they just they show up to shows. They don't look like they're having fun. How important is it to have fun at shows? I think
it's a mix for me. And you saying this is like, oh my God, my whole psychological awakening is happening.
No,
it's wrestling for me is a job. But one thing I find me doing at work is making work fun. So it's like people look at wrestling, oh, it's the fun thing. And I'm like, yeah, but I've had to make it a work thing. And so like it's this whole weird cycle of you do have to balance it. You can't be completely balls to the wall insanity all of the time. But it can't just be like, okay, I must do this thing and have to do this thing and only this thing. Like there has to be ways that you ebb and flow, even just for your own life. Like if I had to sit in front of a spreadsheet all day, I would go crazy. But have I had to do that? Yeah, but I know, okay, I have to get up. I have to go talk to somebody. I have to change up what my own way of thinking is for that moment, or I'm just going to go nuts. So I think you have to bring in an element of fun no matter what you do. And it doesn't have to be a rodeo clown. It can be just like let me talk to this person for 5 seconds about how their weekend was. So I feel like I'm doing something a little bit different out of the norm. And in wrestling, that could mean doing a different style, maybe trying just something different, maybe cutting that promo that you've been too afraid to cut, or something you've never tried in a match. Not to like kill the other person if you've never done it. Like if you're a young boy in wrestling, you shouldn't do something you've never tried out before. But yeah, you should reach outside of yourself and try something a little bit different that's outside of the norm, because part of what people come for is what they don't expect. Like they want to see the thing they haven't seen before and the thing they've seen before. So it's a little bit of it. You have to be able to bring all sides together.
It's fantastically said. That's it. And if anybody watches this and listens to Phil and takes anything away from it, please take something away from that.
What do you mean if? You mean everybody's going to watch this?
Yes.
Share it.
Well, it's if they take something away from it. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. You can dunk their head in it, give them a swirly, nature swirly.
It's like that question's never meant to like you to agree with me. It's to state that wrestling should be fun with the work. It's how like it's not a setup question. I'm not like, oh my heart. No, that's a genuine answer. I love that answer.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Has there been a moment where you have thought of something that not necessarily fits Phil, but fits somebody else, and then you've been able to pass it along, and somebody's kept running with it? Like I like to know, you're a creative guy. I was wondering if there's any Phil creations out there we might not be aware of that are still running wild.
I mean, absolutely, yes. I'm trying to think if sometimes it's been like something like the way you first framed it. So something for me that then it was like, no, that's better for the other person. Definitely at CZW, because I remember like coming up with things and I was like, nope, that's Maven's thing. Like he has to do that. Like this makes sense because he's the established authority. Like he needs to be the person to do that. I know that has certainly come up. Long-term things. One of the things I've appreciated in the last few years is some of the people who've come to me to say, hey, can I get your opinion on this thing? And then they've taken it and run with whatever the opinion is. And that doesn't mean they've had to been like, yes, Phil, I totally agree with everything you've said. It's that they just heard the advice and they were like, I'm going to tweak this now. There's a lot of places and a lot of people who have said some very kind things to me about like, they would never have known me if they hadn't seen this press release you did, or that you put out the indie calendar, or we talked about this thing. And like, that means a lot more to me than anything on sort of the behind the scenes stuff of wrestling. I mean, one of the personal highlights of my like wrestling life was at Revolver. It was Nightmare After Christmas, and it was a big I forgot the right name that we call it. Oh my gosh, a big cage match. And so I'm with what's called Revelation, which is sort of the preformer of what became the unit. So it's like Killer Cross and Ace Romero and JT Dunn and me, and Jessica Havoc. And we're about to go to the ring, and like the music hits and the crowd gives the response, and Killer Cross stops me. And this is at a time like you knew what was coming next for Killer Cross. Like he was going to the WWE, and he like puts his arm out and stops us from walking out. And he looks at me and he goes, you know that they're only responding to us because of you. And I was like, like, oh my God, that's awesome. Thank you. Like, this paid off.
I'm supposed to be a dick right now, but I got to go out here all smiles. Fuck you right now.
Right. Oh, and I totally turned it around because you just use that energy. You're like, fuck all of you. You're still booing me. You shouldn't be booing me.
No, because like kindness in words and affirmation go a long way in this business, especially for someone coming up like you just said. You hold that moment in such a big place in your heart. Just, you know, who the guy was, what you guys were doing. Like they're only booing us because of you, or they're only reacting to us right now because of you. Like that does a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like certain people in the business, like they're stuck in the old timey ways of like, no, we don't really say stuff like that. We kind of just, you know, tell them they keep doing wrong until eventually like, you're perfect.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like it's better to give words of affirmation when it comes to bringing someone up than beating them down.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a previous supervisor in my office job life that used to say, like, give them the compliment sandwich. What has gone well, give them what hasn't gone well, and then end with something that goes well. And I've kept that maybe a little bit when I've given some feedback, and I've realized, yeah, if you do that, if you beat them down, like some people don't recover from that kind of treatment. I've had bosses that were like that just like, that doesn't work. Like that doesn't help and encourage anybody to do anything. Why would they have any energy or effort to give to what you want them to do now, because you've just destroyed them? You have to give that little bit of like a oomph to what they're doing. Criticize, be critical, be honest. And I've had to find that in myself, because I will soft sell things sometimes to people, and it's like, no, I need to be direct with you, or you're not going to get anything out of it.
That's good. That's good. But
I sit here. Sometimes I find myself just kind of like blowing back, and it's mostly because I'm absorbing the information. We do this, and we learn so much from the people that we're able to talk to, and we appreciate it from you. That we like to take everything that we learn and put it into actual use, apply it to this, and become better at what we do. And we hope that other people, by listening to this, and can also learn from you. And that's why we appreciate folks like yourself coming on here.
I mean, well, thank you. I mean, thank you for having me here in the first place.
No, thank you. Thank you for answering. Thank you for coming on to the show. This isn't one of those things where it's so, we don't sit here and we're not going to be like, oh my God, Phil, we love you. You're the president. Oh, no, I'll hail Scroob, hail Scroob. One of those, but we do genuinely appreciate it. I mean, you're involved with what I would consider is one of the larger independent companies. I know you guys don't travel a ton. Texas, Ohio, you had a great show in California that had a lot of viral moments from it. Big surprise appearances there. I mean, advertised surprise appearances, but a very surprising advertised appearance.
Right.
Right. Like that. What do you got, Clint? Because I can see you just laughing at me for rambling.
No, it's like the interviews, like there's things I love and hate about this interview. Like I love all of his responses because they are so full and in depth. But by the end of the question, normally people leave us with something to say, like, "Oh, let me ask you this on top of that." And he's just like, "No, I've already thought about what you're gonna say, and I'm just gonna answer it now." I got the question. We haven't asked it yet. We just kind of shot right into this one. This is the most important question we ask on this fucking show.
Okay.
You travel a lot. Yes. You're on the road a lot, and there's nothing more important than keeping eating. What is your favorite fast food franchise? It's the hardest question we ask.
Oh man, that has changed over time. Lately, I have found myself craving a quarter pounder from McDonald's.
Like, it's classic.
I used to be like, I can't do McDonald's. It has to be Wendy's, and a Wendy's grilled chicken sandwich was my go-to for a long time. And now all of a sudden it's like I have to have a hamburger, which is probably getting me in trouble because I'm way too heavy for my size right now. But yeah, it has to be right now. It's McDonald's. Sorry, everybody else.
I genuinely that's my go-to meal at work because it's literally right down the street, and the app, my order is like $3.90. So it's just like double hamburger, the large fry, which is on the deal menu, and I'm like, cool, I'm set. I get it. But like with the whole changing over time, mine just recently has been Culver's. Okay. Like if you've never had it, they have the best shakes and the best burger I've ever eaten at a fast food establishment. There's
a Culver's in Dayton, and I stop there now and again because it's right near the office specs where we have to get everything printed.
We have our good friend of the show has a saying about Dayton, Ohio. Our good friend Gigi Jacobs likes to say, and I quote, "Fuck Dayton." That is his. Which if you've ever run across Gigi, he'll tell you how he feels about Dayton. So
there are places out there that you're like, oh my God, can you just fall into the sea? Like, I am ready though for either the Star Trek style transporter or if it once it's reliable, completely self-driving cars. Like I am ready for either of those two things to happen. Yeah, sleep hasn't been a thing in a long time.
I used to work on one of those, not the transporter. I will tell you that. I used to work in the industry of the other one. It ain't coming around soon. So
No, we just need to rely on instant transmission. Like Goku had it right, just
right
there.
So
I mean, you're talking to somebody who's dressed up as Krillin on a regular basis, so
it's
used to.
Like
accidentally,
normally I just have shrines here. I'm still unpacking, but there is a whole shelf dedicated to Vegeta.
Okay, fair.
The best character in any form of media. With if you're looking for a redemption arc, if you're looking for a redemption arc in wrestling, look no further than 9 seasons of Dragon Ball Z.
Right. Of course, all I can think of is "I'll kill you, Vegeta," and every stupid Saiyan monkey on the planet.
All I can get it was fantastic because all I've got is DBZ abridged. Vegeta, the stupid Nappa. I'm sorry, I'm gonna start laughing really badly. I have one more question on this. So another friend of the show, John Bullard, he is all over the place himself as well, doing a ton of commentary. And you two are friends, and you're finally getting to do commentary together on We Love Wrestling. Now, was that something you guys worked towards together, or were you approached separately and it just...
It's funny, we've been trying to figure out something to do together. I was trying to come to work with him in his own company. And then randomly, as I was talking with We Love Wrestling, it's like, oh, we're also talking to John. And it was like, really? Because we've been talking about trying to find something to do together. So we actually recorded commentary yesterday on Sunday, and they posted it. I think they posted it today on their YouTube channel.
We'll check that. We'll have to check that out. We'll share it on ours. I find that so fascinating, the world that we live in, where you're able to do commentary from obviously you guys live states apart from each other, and you're able to do commentary for something in another state. And I know he doesn't live that far from it, but like there's just this great range. And I think it really helps a lot of these companies that are maybe struggling. And it's not to say that there's anything bad about using local guys, because there's always people that need help on doing stuff. But if you are looking, if you're as a company and you're putting a good product forward, you have great, production value, but you're looking for a voice, it's such a cool thing that they're able to find people like yourself to bring in and do that. And like, especially establish like a level of credibility towards a company that might have not had that great of a time marketing itself previously.
Yeah. And honestly, talking to their promoter, like he's been very open and honest about like where he's at now and seeing it and where he wants to grow as a company and what he wants to try to do. And I'm super appreciative of that kind of honesty. And working with John was fun. We've known each other for 2 decades and we've never worked on an event together. And so just having that opportunity was just fun.
That's wild. That's awesome that you guys are able to do that. Cause I know catching up with him is nigh impossible, even though the guy will literally answer a text message at any given moment, which is wild to me. He's in the middle of setting up for that RPW show a couple of weeks back, and I had messaged him and I said, "Oh, hey man, I'm sorry, I know you're at a thing." He goes, "No biggie," and then he proceeds to message me like 5 times, and I'm like, "I know you're actively walking and like setting stuff up. I already know what you're doing. Like, just go handle your show. This is not important. We can talk about this later." Phil, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on tonight. We're pushing up on the hour mark of the show. We usually like to keep these interviews short, sweet, to the point. But with that said, what we always like to do is we want to give you the big screen. We want to make sure you can talk about what's coming up for yourself, Wrestling Revolver, anything you want to talk about. So, Clint, if you want to move Phil to that, and we can...
Shit.
Oh, it's Clint's time. Okay, Clint, let's go.
Shit.
he gets enough time.
That's how it works. Okay.
Awesome. So make sure this weekend that you check out Wrestling Revolver. Go to ProWrestlingRevolver.com. See what's coming up with Ready or Not. #RevolverReady on all of your social media channels. Taking place in Clive, Iowa. Also, MCW Pro Wrestling out in Maryland returns in just a couple of weeks. So make sure you check them out, mcwprowrestling.com. And of course, as we just talked about, We Love Wrestling putting out new footage on YouTube with commentary for me and John Bullard. Check it out. You're going to enjoy it.
Everything he just talked about, we will tag down in the bio below. We really, again, I appreciate you coming on. I've been a big fan of yours for at least 2 years, and it's a thank you for getting me into indie wrestling and telling me where I can find my shows, and now blossoming my career into what it is in indie wrestling.
Awesome.
As a cameraman who shows up and gets people high, it's a great life.
Fair.
Owe it to you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to be that much of a part.
Thank you so much. What?
It's the one thing I tell everyone. It's like you don't understand the impact you have on someone's life until someone tells you that, just a quick, we go back and watch our interview with the Three Stooges, where Xander talks about how he just had one kid walk up to him and go like, "I love you. You're my favorite wrestler." And he was like, "I've never met this kid before.
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was." That he was like, that was one of the best moments in wrestling for me, was that shit.
Yeah.
You never know who you impact.
It's so I'll be honest, coming into this interview, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know what to expect from me. This has been a very bad weekend. My dad went to the hospital. He's okay. Somebody at MCW went to the hospital. He's okay. And then my childhood best friend and neighbor passed away last night. And so, but then I found out people in wrestling knew him because he was in a metal band. He was in Pig Destroyer. And I was like, wait, how do you know him? How do you know Blake? Like, and so to find out of how people are connected and how small of a world it really is and how powerful those connections to people can really be and the impressions you leave are just so important. And so don't be a dick, people. Just don't be a dick. Don't show your dick.
$0 to not be a dick.
Right.
Cost $0 to not show your dick too.
Yes.
Unless
you're Dodo. we have a buddy who is just never in public. He's not in public.
I have like 15 years of friendship on you before him. And Jesus Christ, I've seen his dick a lot. My name is Clinton Davis. You can find me at PK Batman.
I'm the Hoochie Daddy Ethan James. You can find me at Hoochie Daddy EJ on Instagram. And beneath us, never below us, is Phil. You can find him at Trust in Phil. That is the president of wrestling. Phil, once again, thank you so much. And our sign off around here is, we love you, Judy.
We love you, Judy. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.